Welcome back to RGR, folks. We have a lot in store for you. Seth, how are you doing? You feeling good?
I'm feeling good. I feel ready to add a little something to the Chiefs' intermediate and shallow offense. Oh, wait. That's Josh Gordon I'm thinking about.
Right. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about what Seth has on, the old interwebs for you guys, as well as how this affects everybody else. And then we'll get into a couple of your questions. We're glad you guys are here. Welcome to RGR Football. Hey, it's Darth Vader. I mean, Seth Kaiser. Whatever's going on, in a black shirt.
It's red.
A red striped tie.
It's red to red.
I like it.
And look, we got to decide this once for all. Look at me, people. I look like I've lost a little weight. I haven't. I'm just wearing black. That's the magic of it. And I'm sorry, it's not my fault that black happens to make it look like I've lost 20 pounds. Well, 10. Let's not get crazy.
I'd take the money and run.
No, life is good. How you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm hanging in. It's been an interesting transition, doing a lot of work on a lot earlier than I usually do on the draft. So that's always entertaining. If you guys have a chance, if you check that out, I'm on the Locked On NFL Draft Show now. It's 5 days a week. So I should be a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to it. And like one of the things that I started looking at, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago was, hey, who's the draft eligible class, the juniors and seniors, that might be available for them to try to get themselves like a more definable X receiver, right? And there's a lot of them. If you guys haven't watched Traylon Burks from Arkansas yet, check him out. If you haven't seen Drake Jackson from USC, check him out. But then they went and did something, and you wrote about it because they have a new guy.
They did a thing. And the Chiefs, isn't that just what we want as fans? Don't we just want our team to do a thing? Even if that thing doesn't work out, it's like, they did a thing. I will keep it juicy, Holly. The Chiefs signed Josh Gordon, which might mean something, might mean nothing. Here's the problem. So when the Chiefs signed Josh Gordon, I was just like, okay, thankfully for me, NFL Game Pass is now a horrible product that doesn't have all 22 for past seasons.
Right.
Does now for 2021 games, depending on who you are.
Right.
Because it doesn't for everyone, whether you're international or national. And it also splits it up into two different things, and you can't select by play, and there's no more player search function. How do you screw this up? Like, how do you take a product like Game Pass and take the best? Like, how do you manage to screw it up that way? How do you manage to take out all the best features?
You have to
assume. Not add anything. And everything they changed is terrible. Right. It's terrible. The interface is terrible. It's not intuitive. It's like, I feel like they got together and said, what can we do to really annoy and aggravate the people that use all 22 for their jobs?
Yeah, the 6 fans and all of us analysts, right?
Exactly. I don't know who they think is using all 22. It could have been so easy. They could have made all 22 the exact same as it was and charged an extra $100 for it, and they would have made out like bandits.
They'd have got my money.
They would have gotten my money too. But anyway, because of their complete ineptitude, in terms of, they're only a multi-billion-dollar organization. Why would they have just one person that's like, guys, this is not usable,
right?
But anyway, I couldn't look at the all 22 for past performances, but I still have a sickness. I still have a problem. I swore I'm not going to go back and watch a bunch of games from 2018, 2019. That's exactly what I did because I have a problem.
Yes.
And so the thing with me, Nate and I were talking about this, which I'm going to give a quick plug. Yes. A lot of people have reached out asking how Josh Briscoe's doing. The third member of Times R. See, when you zoom in, it looks like I haven't lost weight. It reveals the lie of the black shirt. Josh is home. He's doing well. And he actually recorded an episode of Times R's with myself and Nate today. So he's He called me an a-hole while we were preparing. You know, it was
so we're
fun.
back to normal.
We're back to normal. The thoughts and prayers and everyone reaching out to hear about him. It was just so great. He's so grateful for it. So great of everyone. It was awesome. So anyway, so Nate and I were talking about the Josh Gordon signing, and we were talking about just the various aspects of it. And one of the things that I couldn't get out of my head as we started to prepare for it is the fact, man, the zoomed in thing is just freaking me out.
All right,
swear.
sorry. Dang.
I couldn't get it out of my head, the idea of the role they're looking to prepare him for. And then the fact that, did you see today's pressers, by the way?
I have not seen them yet, no.
So interestingly enough, and there's a bunch of things that I really want to circle back to with regards to Gordon, but this caught my eye, where Reid basically said, and it was either Matt Derrick or Adam Teicher who quoted him on this. I think it was Matt, and it's always Matt because Matt reports everything, and That's what Matt does. Job. It's that they're not planning on using Josh Gordon in special teams,
right?
Which
it was Dave Tobin said it, right?
Yeah,
right.
Where he basically
so, like
said
from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, he just like flat out saying no, they're not going to use him. Yeah, no plans. Says his role is likely the number 2 or 3 receiver, which it's like, and that really, this is what's going to separate Josh Gordon's situation from almost every other receiver on the roster, is that he's either going to have a significant role in the offense or he's not going to do a thing.
Right.
There's really not going to be a lot of in between here, would be my guess.
Mine as well.
And so I wasn't going to write about him just because I was like, nah, I mean, but so Nate and I, when we were talking about Josh Gordon, something occurred to me because I didn't realize he played so many games in 2018 and in 2019. He played quite a few games.
What did he get 11 games in 19?
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, before in between suspensions. And just on a side note, look, yes, Josh Gordon got suspended a bunch of times. I've never heard any allegations that he drove a motor vehicle intoxicated, beat someone up, did any of those things. He just couldn't stop using. Whether that was weed, whether it was something else, he couldn't. And I'm really okay giving someone a lot of chances with that kind of thing. Because it's just like, hey, look, he hasn't hurt anyone other than himself, really.
Right.
And it's like, hey, let's see how we can do. But anyway, so I didn't realize not only did he play in 2018 a fair number of games, he put up some pretty nice stats in 2018. And again, I didn't even remember this, and this is something I'm curious if you fell victim to this as well. Because in 2018, that's when I started working for The Athletic. That's when Nate started working for The Athletic too. What was the only thing you ever talked about, wrote about, thought about, anything with regards to the NFL and the year 2018?
Alex, I'm trying to remember what I don't know. That was
Patrick
more than
Mahomes.
4 weeks ago, bro. Oh, well. No, in 18,
Mahomes.
was it?
2018. 17? Well, because in 17, he was drafted and then it was Alex Smith. 2018 was the first year. Wow, Ryan, get some sleep, dude.
I know, man. It's,
But that was the only thing that I thought about, wrote about. I bet, I wrote 20 Mahomes articles that first year, and that's probably underselling it. Yeah. Because he's so great. It was just unbelievable. And because that, I genuinely did not realize that he caught in 11 games in 2018, started 10, or no, he started all 11. He had 720 rushing yards, average 18 yards per reception. I did not realize that. Another thing I didn't realize. Say again.
You said rushing yards. It's receiving yards, folks.
Look, man, I remembered what year Mahomes started. I didn't remember any of this. Yeah, who? I didn't remember any of that. I was surprised. And then, he had a decent start to the year with New England in 2019, and then the suspension, then a couple games with the Seahawks, but nothing really, they never really got the ball rolling before he got suspended again. I didn't realize that he had been in the league that recently. You know what I mean? Because it just felt like forever ago that you really heard anything about him. And so when I saw that, and then the second piece of information that made me say, okay, I'll at least go look, right? is that he's 30.
Yeah.
Given the fact that he entered the league in 2012, I figured he was at least 33, 34. You know what I mean? Like, that surprised me.
Okay.
That
On a
was
positive way.
Yeah, well, that was weird to me because I just figured because it just seems like so long ago.
See, now we've established that my time sensitivity is not working very well.
No,
because I thought he'd be like 28. That was the number that I had in my head. I thought he'd come out early for some reason at like 20, and so like I was a little surprised. But
well, he definitely did because he's a like a midway through 30 guy. He's not like about to turn 31.
Right.
So he entered the league in 2012, and that's why such a big deal was made about him in 2012 and 2013. It's because he was like 20 and 21, or like 21, 22. He's just a young dude. He's younger than Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
He's a year older than Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
He's 2 years older than Byron Pringle. That one freaked me out, by the way. And so I thought, man, 30. He's a couple years younger than Julio.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, 30, there are plenty of receivers that they start their real drop off probably around 32, 33. There's plenty of receivers that play well at 30.
And my question to you is, for a guy at 30 years old, he's got very, very little wear on him because he's missed so many games.
Right. And so maybe we get a chance to really find out here with him. Is that a real thing?
Right. Is it a truly thing, or is it volume of snaps?
Yeah. Is it really age? Is it volume of snaps? Does it matter? And so I thought, man, I'd take a look. And so I'm curious. Hold on. First, this super chat is amazing.
Thank you, William. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm practicing for the day that may come at one point where I run this. So I'm gonna handle the super chat right here. Am I the only one who looked up YouTube highlights from Josh Gordon's time with the Zappers of the FCF earlier this year? And should I feel shame? No. Yes. First part, you should definitely, yes, you're not the only one. A bunch of people did, but you should be ashamed of yourself. And all of us should, really. So I don't know. So Ryan, here's what I'm curious about. Did you go back and watch some of his snaps from 18 and 19?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to bias my answer. Do you want to say what you thought first, or do you want me to say what I thought first?
I will tell you this. I didn't go back and watch them specifically. I took a look in general of what my notes have been over the years. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that because I live outside of Kansas City, because I'm in Denver, I get more Seahawks games televised to me. So I saw him a little bit live when he was in Seattle. And so that's really the memory that sticks out freshly to me. And what it was that, like you said, they didn't really get it, cooking, Russ. Sorry, bud. But there were moments where you could see that he still has the athleticism and the physicality above the competition that is really what drove his success early. And I think if it's still there and the wear on the tires is nice and low, I don't see why it can't happen again.
Absolutely. So here's what was interesting to me is, and this was true back in like 2013 too. I couldn't understand, like, when he had that all-pro year, and even in 2012 when he really started to break out,
mm-hmm.
I couldn't understand what made him so good, because it's such an incredible deep threat, because it's not like he's like a burner. I know people are saying, oh, yeah, he still runs a 4.340, like people were saying that in 2017, 2018. He was never a 4.340 guy.
No, 4.52, folks.
Yeah, 4.52 is what he ran. And that's like, Kelce when he entered the league, maybe. Kelce could burn back then, though. Now he just is always open. He just does magic.
I'd have to go look Kelce up.
Yeah. No, I think he was like a 4.6, 4.7 guy. Very fast for a tight end, but not for a wide receiver. Right. And so what's fascinating to me is I just couldn't figure. He's just always getting open with Gordon, right? And it's not because he's this incredible route runner like Kelce is. Although watching him, I was kind of intrigued when I watched some of his snaps with Seattle. He runs with a smoothness and with some intentionality in his steps that surprised me as a guy that I always thought of as just winning physically.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I thought was really interesting. Like, you talk about that size, the physicality, the physical talent. Really, sometimes it is like we spend a lot of time talking about size isn't necessarily everything in terms of wide receivers. Like Tyreek Hill is a really good contested ball wide receiver because he's got amazing ball skills and can jump 400 feet in the air. Right? That ability to track the ball in the air and the ability, the body control to control your entire body, not just your hands, but your entire body to contort, to bend, and still catch the ball. That's not easy. Exhibit A, Byron Pringle on Sunday against the Chargers had a couple of drops that would have been, I would say, tough catches, but not crazy tough catches for an NFL receiver, right? But it's hard to make those catches when you're contorting your body. That's just hard to do.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing for these contested catches, these tough catches. Strong hands, obviously a big deal. And there's a difference between good hands and like strong hands,
right?
And then average hands. You get all the gamut. So, you know, a guy with good hands, Tyreek Hill has good hands, right? Travis Kelce has good hands and strong hands. But I wouldn't say he's elite necessarily in that because he'll occasionally get the ball knocked out. A guy with like elite,
he's not Nuke.
Yeah, that's the elite strong hands and great hands, or like Julio at his apex. The thing I always think about is, you know, in the back of the end zone, you know, when Julio, I think it was Malcolm Butler he was against, he just grabbed the ball and just ripped it away.
Right.
And it was just one of those like, holy crap. And, you know, Nuke, you know, the Hail Mary to win that game. I mean, that's when you combine that with size. Like that trait is much more important, like Stephon Diggs or something like that, right? Diggs has really good hands, really strong hands, great contested ball catcher. You got a lot of guys like that aren't 6'3". Gordon has that. And he is 6'3". He's a big dude. Like he looks like a small tight end. But he doesn't move like one.
No, he doesn't. And I was just gonna say he doesn't have to because they're not asking him to play the Z. People, they have put him in the Z in some places. I think New England tried that for a little bit and it just didn't work out. But for what his role in this offense will be to line up on the line of scrimmage and play the X mostly, I mean, I don't know. My thing is, especially when you go back, if you look at some of the catches he made in Seattle, some of the like highlight reel ones, he's good and he's strong here. He's just as strong here.
Yep, right here.
That's a big difference.
And he's also strong here. I mean, but he's a guy that won't necessarily basket catch it. And this, let me tell you something. The difference between this and this, the reason so many guys don't do this, that ball is coming in. Like TV doesn't do it justice. Anyone who's watching it, like go out sometime and have a guy who played college quarterback anywhere virtually throw you the football. It's a different world.
It is.
That ball comes faster. That ball comes harder. All that stuff. But it just comes so fast, and you're running so fast. The easy thing to do is get your hands out and basket catch it. Like Tyreek Hill basket catches all the time. He just has good hands, and he's able to get away with it because his body control is unbelievable. Gordon's a guy that snatches it out of the air, similar to Watkins. That's what they liked about Watkins. That at his best, he'd snatch the ball out of the air. Now, he wasn't consistent with it. Watch some of Gordon's catches. Like you said, he's as strong extended here as he is here. And when he gets hit, when he catches it, he still brings the ball in the majority of the time. All this is a long road to shore up. We don't know how to go with him. And I know there's already, you know, some questions that, you know, Le'Veon Bell last year. He looked like he had a little juice the year before with the Jets, and nothing happened. It didn't turn out well in KC. It is what it is. With Gordon, if he's the same player he was in 2018, 2019, the last time he was in the league, not 2013, let's forget about all that. He was 22. If he's that guy, he would be a marked increase in their ability at the X and provide a genuine threat because you can't do the one-on-one thing with him all the time. It's kind of like what Mahomes talked about today. He's a guy that even if he's covered, he's not really covered. Because unless you are a big physical corner, Mahomes will just back shoulder it to him. Like similar to what he did with Kelce, which I'm still mad they lost that game Sunday because we lost out on a vintage Kelce game where he did a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
He was the best player on the field Sunday.
He was. And I know a lot of people are frustrated about that interception, folks. I have a lengthy breakdown of that interception play and all the bits and pieces that went into it, including Travis. So please check that out tomorrow, lunchtime-ish. It'll go up.
I'm excited to see that. They're on the same page so often
Mhm.
It's rare to see them. And I can see, well, you know what? I won't even talk, but I mean, I can see why Kelsey moved the way he did. And I can see why Patrick didn't think he was going to do that. And had either one of them been on they each thought two different things, and had either one of them thought the other thing, that probably would have been a huge completion.
Yeah.
That's frustrating, but I'm excited to see that. But so the thing with Gordon, it's just well, I suppose, you know what? See, I got to get better at this. Let's answer a super chat first here. I'm going to leave this one to you first. Does Mike Hughes, thank you, Kyle, for the super chat. Does Mike Hughes get a long-term contract with KC?
Thank you very much, Kyle. And I will tell you this. I have no idea. It will come down for Mike Hughes, who was a roller coaster in Minnesota, and I think is showing you that he's going to be a roller coaster here. It's going to take a full season to do that evaluation. I don't think we will know until the season's over.
I agree. And I think even if he continues to play at the exact level he's playing right now, I think they'll probably offer him like a Bashad Breeland style 1-year deal or 2-year deal type thing. And he might not want that. So much of it for him and for Baker depends on amount of playing time. Less so for Hughes, because it looks he's made his way into the rotation. I think he's done all right. Although there's been more miscommunications this year on the back end. And it's hard to not wonder if that's not due to some new guys there. Because that's
I agree with you, but although when you see who's talking to who,
that's true.
Not usually at Hughes.
It really isn't usually Hughes. And he's also provided some juice as a returner. I wish they had him back there more. I like him as a returner. He doesn't return the ball like a guy who I think is ever going to break one for a touchdown.
Right.
But he always gets positive yards, and that's harder than people think.
He's slinky in traffic. And if he gets you 10 more yards on average per return, that's field position that you can't get any other way. I think it's really valuable.
There's a ton of value in that. So I think he's got potential for a long-term contract, but I don't think it would be after this year. I think it would be in 2 years. And they traded for him, which would mean he would be a restricted free agent after this year?
I do believe so, yes.
Because that's important. And that was one of the reasons why it was a good move to get some control on him. Because if I'm recalling, Hughes was a first-round pick, right?
Yep.
And so he had 2 years in Minnesota. And so I think they've got an extra year of control there. So they've got time with him. Baker was a different deal. They signed him off the street, essentially.
Right. His rookie contract had been negated. It was out the window. So
and
Kyle, thank you for this one. It was a good question.
That's a really good question. So returning to Gordon, basically you've got a guy that you are, hey, thanks, Holly. With Gordon, you've got a guy who, in theory, again, if you're taking 2018, 2019, in theory fits the exact niche that the Chiefs need. Like, because people talk about, well, he might still be a deep ball threat, and he might be, for sure. Hardman's a great deep ball threat. Is he as good as Hill? No, no one is. Besides maybe like DK Metcalf. But I mean, Hill is just in his own stratosphere. And you just watch the All-22 and you watch the defenses just, bend their safeties around Hill. Hill is so good. Defenses are starting to favor going for him as opposed to Travis Kelce. That's incredible.
Although the Chargers elected to double both of them in a way this last weekend. And that's the key, is if you did that. In fact, the play that you guys will see tomorrow is a 2-shell on top of man, where they had a body on everybody and they had a safety to Travis' side and a safety to Hill's side. You put Gordon in that scenario, they can't do that anymore.
You need someone that you can throw in the slot or at the X and just say, we're sending you on some kind of some kind of crosser, some kind of comeback, some kind of seam route. I don't care.
Yeah.
And then we're having Kelsey's here, Hill's here, or they're both over here, and the whole defense has to bend that way. And we're telling this defense they can't ignore that. Now, defenses are still, I don't think the presence of Josh Gordon in that game one, whenever he plays, probably 2 or 3 weeks, is going to necessarily alter. I don't think teams are going to alter what they do. I wish I've seen spurts with Hardman. I really have. They've tried with some of the intermediate stuff this year. He hasn't played badly, but it's just not the same thing with him, where I just don't think he's as trusted to win those contested catch situations or those one-on-ones where he's not just gaining a step through the natural progression of the route. You know, you said Hardman on a drag route across the field. Mahomes knows he's going to get open if he has a couple seconds because he's just faster. But that guy that you can send up the seam or somewhere thereabouts and say, okay, this is what you're doing. Well, I can't help but notice your two safeties. Boy, are they shading over here. Hey, look, it's this area all up in the middle of the field. That's where Gordon comes in, and we'll see.
Yeah.
You're the one that's always talked about that when the Chiefs' offense was at its absolute best was when Sammy Watkins was fully healthy. And in those moments, the offense looked impossible to stop.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, Hardman outruns his own safety zone. Because teams are playing so deep because of Hill, that negates some of his top end speed too. So like you said, the drags will work. He doesn't run the best digs. I would like to see him get better at that because that's a route that he can win on because of that.
Absolutely. Teams are giving him so much space, and they should because he's freakishly fast. Yeah. But there seems to be just a ceiling on him right now that he hasn't quite been able to push through. Still has a role. Yep. Even right as he is right now, still has a role and is still valuable. Let me tell you something, though. Hardman's role becomes significantly more valuable with a Josh Gordon type.
And that's why he's on the thumbnail, folks.
He might benefit from the presence of Josh Gordon more than Hill and Kelsey simply because that go, hey, man, just go. Because they can't send a safety over the top because they're already shadowing Hill and Kelsey. I mean, and you can't just have a corner bail with Hardman either if you've got guys that you trust more in the intermediate. So we'll see. You know what I mean? That's the problem, right? Who knows if he's still even the same guy physically that he was. It's a year and a half. It's a long time.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing with Gordon is he doesn't need to be a great X. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even need to be a good X. He needs to be an above average one.
Okay.
Just that would have a domino effect on an offense that, by the way, and then I wrote about this, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. The offense overall, people are talking about, these teams, they're playing these two deep shells and they're bailing guys out and they're taking the ceiling off the offense. They're really kind of limiting the Chiefs. The offense has been marching up and down the field by and large, especially against the Chargers. They just kept turning the ball over. It's like, what a game plan by the Chargers. Like, yeah, count on them to fumble.
Right.
Okay. I mean, yeah, any game plan against 4 turnovers. I'm surprised more people aren't saying, man, should the Chargers be concerned that the Chiefs turn the ball over 4 times and still put up that many points?
Ding, ding, ding. I mean, they're running better in short yardage, which means when they get into those situations in the past, they're going to convert and get a fresh set of downs.
Yep.
They need to get better in the red zone still. They need to exert their will a little bit more. I think I want to see more straight-headed power.
I was just going to ask you that. How many times do you think they should be running inside or outside zone a game right now with what you've seen from the line?
Probably 6 or 8, and that's about it.
If that. It doesn't fit well with what Brown and Smith do.
Yep.
Niang needs some work on getting to his spots too, but Brown and Smith so far, there's been a few runs that just get blown up because they can't quite reach fast enough. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get those same things on some, these guard tackles. Humphrey couldn't get over 2 gaps, and you got to get there, or at least just cut the guy. But be that as it may, not cut Humphrey, cut the defensive tackle.
Right. And get the flag now is the problem.
Right. That's true. Yeah, because if anyone's engaged him at all. So something that to me I found interesting is what you notice with teams, even when they play the Chiefs with lighter boxes, and this was the case last year too, they're still playing pass rush and penetration. And that's the problem with some of these zone reads. You're trying to go, horizontal and look for that one cut and go. The problem is when everyone's playing penetration, you don't get you try to travel horizontally, but instead you're having to travel back, take a hesitation step, and you end up just stringing it out along all the way. Whereas just straight power is just, hey, Orlando Brown, Trey Smith, and Lucas Niang are massive humans. Creed Humphrey's pretty big himself, and Joe Tooney can block power just fine.
Yep.
The double teams, and that's the thing when you've got light boxes, those combo blocks and double teams. That's what those are made for. Inside outside zone, those light boxes don't affect you nearly as much. That's a lot more about defensive speed and discipline. And so it's driving me crazy. Help me understand, Ryan.
I wish I knew. I think whatever's going on with Andy Reid physically, I think it is shading how he feels, is shading how he's calling games. Because I think the plan was to go to more of that when we were talking about, OTAs and training camp, and it hasn't really materialized. Same thing with passing the ball to Clyde more. Like, I think that I think we're seeing an elongated breaking in period. What I thought was going to be a game or two looks like it might be 4 or 5 now. But I do think that they will get to it. I think they're just a little bit slow.
They did call more power against the Chargers, I noticed.
Yeah, I noticed that a little bit too.
Yeah, now whether that's because the Chargers are so bad against the run or whatever, I guess we'll see. Because Philly has a much better defensive front.
Yeah.
And Fletcher Cox isn't necessarily going to bend to the will of these double teams. That's going to be a good test. But let me just tell you, if Tooney and Humphrey or Smith and Humphrey, because it's going to be some combination of those guys, if they can drive Fletcher Cox out of the hole that same way and still get those easy 6 or 7 yards, you're kind of cooking with gas there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's and which sounds like a bad thing, but I mean it is a good thing.
Right. It depends where the source is. But
so I just want to see more of that. Yeah, it depends on where the source is. I want to see more of that. And those are really the two things. An X receiver that you can count on to win those individual matchups in the intermediate portion of the field without needing time to get open.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Gordon's going to create quick separation, but someone that's not bothered by physicality at the line of scrimmage, and he is not. He just kind of,
I'm really, really intrigued to see who reaps the benefits, and I'm leaning towards McCall, but I don't know. We're way behind on Super Chat, so we're going to get to some of these. No, you're fine. When we cover a topic, we're going to cover a topic. So, Flapjack, you're going to see some of that, especially if the play's designed to go one way or the other. There's a lot of times in this offense where Tyreek is taking the top off on purpose to make room for other players underneath. So, you're going to see some of that. I can't tell you who showed it to you or if they told you why, but my guess is it's probably an incomplete answer.
I've got Mahomes as having at least one missed shot to Hardman, not Hill, where he ended up getting kind of happy feet and ended up checking down. Well, unsuccessfully, kind of walked himself into pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to keep an eye on. And I wrote about it after the game, and I wrote about it after week 2, and I wrote about it after week 3. I'm not sure if Mahomes has ever really worked with an actual NFL pocket because Mitch Morse in 2018 spent some of the time hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And LDT wasn't his best season. His best season was the prior year and had come down just a little bit. They still had some problems at left guard there. He is always kind of favored, bailing left or right at Texas Tech, obviously. And he's never really been able to trust that interior 3. I would argue that interior 3 that's the stronger unit right now, especially with what Bosa did to Lucas Niang, which that's not fair to judge Niang on that. Right. Some of those also weren't his fault.
I agree. And again, folks, you want to watch this breakdown tomorrow because we cover a gamut of things on this one play, and you'll see a little bit of all of this.
That was one that I already marked down as a happy feet snap, where Mahomes didn't do Niang any favors there. And by bailing right like he did, he eliminated 3 receivers on the left side of the field, down the field.
Well,
that was a tough snap for him.
Not even that, but they were all in man and had their backs to him.
Yep.
So anyway, watch it tomorrow, folks. I think you'll dig it. Flapjack, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Gooch, thank you for you. Got to get your digs in when you can.
And Red.
And folks, these are super chats. If you want to support the channel, this is the way to do it. It's the easiest way to do it. You just do it in the chat, and whatever you throw at us, we'll make sure super chats get answered like we're about to now. I'm sorry for those. This isn't the Q&A. Monday night, I answer every question you guys throw. Tonight, we're going to hit the super chats and make sure they get taken care of. And if you guys circle back to us, we'll try to do more as well. But Lucky Croc, thank you. I did Clyde, and I know he's our guy. But what is likely to happen if he keeps fumbling?
Andy Reid will bench him.
Yes.
Andy Reid, he's got 2 fumbles now in back-to-back weeks. I think if he fumbles again, I'm guessing he'll see a drastic downsizing in his snaps. That's one thing. Fumbles has always been a thing. Although it's worth noting, Jamal Charles would occasionally have fumbling issues. It's not like he saw a decrease in snaps other than when they were trying to make Nile Davis happen.
But let's not call Clyde Jamal.
No. And that I was going to say that's the difference is that while Clyde can play, he's not Jamal.
Yeah.
And I personally think probably what you'll see if that happens, you'll see more Williams and markedly more McKinnon.
And you'll see more power because Darryl can run behind it effectively as well, and I think probably better than the zone. I'm just saying. And you'll see McKinnon. I like that. Thank you, Croc. Real, how are you? Do you know what Holly said? Thanks for the great analysis. Thank you. I didn't see what Holly said, so I hope that it was cool. It was Holly, so I'm sure it is. But hey,
yeah, it's always something nice.
I missed that part. It's they're saying not adorable tonight, Seth.
That's hurtful.
He's trying, folks. He's trying. William, thank you again. Do you think that Andy's going to pull out any of his old TO plays? Does Gordon's mere presence force teams into nickel?
You can't. It's unfair to have any sort of expectation for Josh Gordon, even peak Josh Gordon, to be anything like prime Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
Terrell Owens, and it's so much of the stuff that he did kind of, he's kind of antics or whatever. Terrell Owens was awesome. Yeah. And it's easy to forget that, but if you go back, look at his career stats. I mean, stats don't tell the whole story with a player, but over the course of an entire career, they tell a lot more than just like one season. Terrell Owens was unbelievable.
Well, and I'll tell you guys what else. Teams are in nickel all the time already. It's not that they're changing the personnel packages. They're upgrading the X. So like 3x1 is a staple in this offense. You're just going to have an upgrade of the 3 that are out there is what it is going to be.
Absolutely. That in theory, if it works out. I keep telling myself in theory. But I mean, I'll tell you, I feel a lot better of 2019 version of Gordon as the X with Kelsey, Hill, Hardman. Mm-hmm. I feel a great deal better with that. Or, if you throw Hill in the slot, you move Gordon wherever. I mean, I feel much better with that than I do. Pringle got a shot. That's a bummer how quickly that can go away with those chances. But sometimes really in the NFL, in terms of getting that bigger role, you don't see those opportunities stay open long when you're the 4th or 5th receiver. You kind of get those chances. Marcus Kemp got a chance, and look, that throw should have been more accurate to Kemp, but you got to catch that.
Yeah. I hope Pringle gets another shot because I felt like that was an aberration. Rather,
and he's generally shown good hands.
Yeah. So let's hope that happens.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Gooch. Juicy, we'll take Xanax. Yeah, I saw that. That's a lot of comparison for Tyron to put out there. I would not have said that out loud.
And keep in mind, guys, Calvin Johnson was 6'5", 240, and ran like a 4.3.
Yeah.
And he had maybe some of the strongest hands the NFL has ever seen. He's incomparable. He is. It's like when people compare fast receivers to Tyreek Hill, right? I mean, is that fair? In terms of physical ability, comparing anyone to Calvin Johnson in terms of stature and all that, he was created in a lab. He was freakish.
I mean, the only guy that I would even put it close would be Andre Johnson.
Yeah, man.
Like the two of them, again, with the power, with the strong hands, with the physicality, that is, it's a tight end playing wide receiver. That's what it is.
Yep.
Longmorn, thank you. I agree with you completely. We appreciate the support. And first and goal. Let's see if they can continue to improve that. That's what I'm looking for. Norman, I haven't heard anything about Orlando not playing. I didn't see the injury report today, but if he didn't practice, I thought everybody practiced today, so I think he's going to be fine.
I think everyone practiced today as well. But okay. Let me see. Good old Matt Derrick is always on the.
Yep,
he's always on.
Check that. Gooch, thank you. Yep, that's what you got to do. This is a Father's Day present for a few years ago, and I still bring it out whenever there's a boy around. That's what happens when you have all girls. Not to remember the Titans reference, but hey, he's limited.
Clark, Jones, Brown, and Ward were all limited. Fenton did not practice.
Okay. Yeah, Fenton's going to be in the protocol, folks. I don't think he's going to be available. And quite frankly, if he didn't practice today, they probably wouldn't play him anyway.
Mm-hmm. I'm guessing Brown plays. If he can't go, I would think they probably shift Niang to left. If they're what they do will let you know how Niang has done in his limited reps at left tackle. Because I really would rather they just put Remmers back at right tackle.
Because I think they're going to put Remmers at left if they do.
Well, we'll see. And we'll see how he does over there and when not thrown into the absolute worst case scenario.
Right. He should be well rested. I'm going to go with that. Stevie, you got a good point. It's called Star Wars, Gooch. It's okay. Croc, thank you again. Love my new yellow RGR This is Chiefs Kingdom. Awesome. I'm glad you guys are pumped about them. I got a few other ones that I've finished, and I'm just trying to get like the legal okay and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll put them out for you. Hopefully the next week or two when I get back. If you guys don't know, big holiday for my wife this year. We are going away for a mid-season trip.
Yes.
You'll see more of Seth. You'll see more of Dan. You might see a couple glimpses of me from somewhere in paradise. I think you guys will dig it. I won't have the greatest connection. So the guys are going to take over the channel. But that shirt is going to go with me. And I hope when I get back, I'll have more ideas for you. Gooch, thank you. You can like frown heavily. No one can disown you at this point. Holly, if Reid's health is affecting his play calling, do you think that they would have self-awareness to recognize that and do what's best for the team? That's asking a Hall of Fame coach to lighten his control, and that ain't going to happen.
Andy Reid will not lighten his control over the offense. And let me just tell you, I would say it this way, and I think it would be important to really, clarify the way that you frame that. It could be, if he's with health stuff, whatever's going on there, it could be that it just alters how you install and how quickly you move with certain things. Because Andy Reid's a guy that works like 19, 20-hour days during the season. And maybe having to work a 16-hour day affects that.
And that's my point is he might still be putting in those hours, but they're not as effective because he doesn't feel as well. You know what I mean? So like, I'm thinking both the install and game day calling, if he's that exhausted because he's not feeling well. That's all I'm getting at, folks. I don't have any medical information on it.
And that's just and yeah. So I wanted to make sure no one really took that too much to an extreme. But let me just tell you, Andy Reid controls everything in that building. Everything. So that's not going to change. That's the only way he knows how to do it. And one of the things that always gets complimented about Andy Reid, right? And this was all after the Super Bowl and everything, is that he's always the same guy. He's going to do what's worked. And what's worked is him having full control over the offense. It's just a matter. He trusts Bieniemy. He trusts Kafka. He's got a great staff around him, but he's still going to be the guy. And he's not going to he's just not going to. Barring absolute necessity. And even then, what I would see him doing would be he would still be the designer, and he would hand over a game plan and maybe let someone call plays. But even then, I mean, that would be that would be like if he couldn't be there.
See, and that's where I'm at. Like Andy's a light switch. He's either there and he's on, or he's not there at all. And it'll be Bieniemy is the only thing that I'm thinking. If Andy has any kind of recurrence where they think hospitalization is important or that he needs to take a week off or something like that, it will be Bieniemy the whole week. He and Kafka will do the thing with the stuff, and it'll be all right. Yeah, Holly, thank you for that, though. Gooch, for those wondering, half of the chat cannot see the red. Let me help Seth here. There's red in that tie. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Look at that red.
Stevie says red and silver of the Chiefs fandom, Gooch. We can
my fandom, you can see the red on the wall. I mean, come on.
We'll call it an alternate. How's that? It's an alternate.
An alternate.
If they can run out gold helmets with arrowheads on them, you can wear a tie that has a little bit of red in it. And then Gooch said, so what you're saying is Keys is that he loves those other teams more than the Chiefs, and he just writes about the Chiefs to pull us in. Oh, please subscribe to the Chief of the North newsletter. Let me show you how to do that. You can do that right there. And
now at this point, I'll be honest. At this point, I wear the colors I wear in part just because I don't like being told what to do. Even in a fun way, I'm like, oh, you're going to say that? Fine. Next week, I'm going to paint my face. No, I won't do that.
Oh, but you might.
That would be.
I'll ask Tucker. We'll get this thing done.
Yeah, we'll get it done. But no, I have my routine. I wear what I wear. And as much as I love you rogues, I'm just not willing to break up my weekly routine. I am willing to alter my tie, though. And that shows how much I love you guys.
That is awesome.
Somehow. Oh, man. Now everyone there's a conversation in the comments going on right now about how to subscribe to the Chief of the North newsletter and how little some people pay. And you know what? I'm okay with it. I just appreciate anyone. I appreciate anyone subscribing. That means a lot to me.
And you guys, you need to do it. Oh, I must have clicked the wrong banner. This is it. Substack. I will put it in the notes when we have it for replay as well.
Sure, always.
What that was is for you guys to become members. If you want to get into the Discord, we're opening it up all the way down to rookies now. Hit that Gmail and let me know your username that your membership is under so I can identify you, and the email that I can send the invite to. And that's for the Discord. Stevie and Aaron and Gooch run the Discord. They got the whole thing planned out. It's a great community, and it is all rogues. So getting back to the Super Chats so we don't lose them. Thank you guys for supporting us, and a lot of Stevie and Gooch tonight. And thank you guys, as always. For real, I feel embarrassed to say how little I paid for that. Okay, now I see what you're saying, Seth.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it one bit, Stevie. If you ever want to hit me up and ask how to upgrade your subscription to be like a Chief of the North supporter, you totally can, but you don't need to. I've kept those coupons that are supposed to be limited time open the whole time for a reason. Maybe one day when I go and that's my full-time gig or whatever, then maybe I'll change those. But I want everyone to be able to read it.
Yeah.
And Gooch pays more than you, Steve.
And Gooch is just asking, Stevie, what do you pay? And that's what it is. So, folks, I mean, you can't get better than this. I mean,
yeah.
He found
the half off of the 60% off. It's usually just the 60% off, $12 a year. bit.ly/Seth really hates money.
Right.
And Gooch already upgraded to be a supporter. No pressure, Stevie. How's that Super Bowl confetti looking on your wall?
Right. I deleted the Bitly one, so use this one, you guys. Minnesota Chiefs fan at Substack.com or .substack.com.
Sure.
Like I said, I'll put it in the notes here. Ed V, how are you? What are your thoughts on having Jody Fortson playing more snaps?
Yes, you had me at Jody Fortson, my friend. You know, that touchdown he caught, which it was really funny. Briscoe tweeted out, "I've been healed." Like Fortson got that. That pass was traveling approximately 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he caught the back half of the ball.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I like. One of the things I like about Fortson, he's got strong hands, and I've wanted to see him get on the field a little bit more. And I understand he's a tight end, not a receiver, but he was a guy that I really think you could ask some of the things we're talking about with Josh Gordon. Obviously, Fortson hasn't shown the ability to do it at remotely the same level Gordon has shown throughout his career. But that's still like something, man, you could at least try it. Just try it. See if it works. Because if you're not getting that out of the guys that you want to get that out of, you got to maybe try to get it out of some unconventional ways. I'd love to see Fortson get more snaps, though.
I would too. In fact, I'm gonna do a double check here while you address Stevie's next super chat because I got to look something up.
Boy, the super chat. I'll probably accidentally do it at some point. I'll tell you, man, mornings are tough for me. I'm not a morning guy. So like when I'm getting ready in the mornings on Thursdays, I'm usually just in full-fledged, like this morning I was thinking, okay, I've gotten admit-deny hearing in a new child protection file. Did we make sure to get notifications out? Oh no, I haven't notified that witness. And I just start like, so, and then by the time at around like 5:30, I'm like, oh crap, I'm wearing that black shirt again.
It happens. What are you going to do? This is it. I think this is it. Yes. This is Jody Fortson's career line in Kansas City. 2 targets, 2 catches, 1 touchdown.
I mean, so basically, if you just throw him the ball 50 times, you'll get 25 touchdowns.
Basically what I'm
saying.
The
math is right there for all of us to see. I like Fortson. Hey, thanks, Gooch. I do appreciate it, man. I like the fact that you're willing to give me crap, and I really appreciate the support. It means a lot to me. I still can't believe you guys, the support the Chief of the North newsletter has gotten. We're closing in on 300 subscribers, or 3,000 subscribers, actually. And that it's allowed me so much flexibility to do what I want in the industry. And anyway, it's awesome. But with Fortson, it's partly, some of it's a bit. I think he's got a skill set that works. I really do. And then, I like Noah Gray, but they keep, they march out Noah. I'm like, no, give Fortson the ball. Let's just see what happens.
But here's the interesting thing. Now you saw Jody do what he did. We know what Travis can do. We've seen Gordon on film. You have 3 guys that are now leapers, that are now red zone leapers. Do we change the whole offense?
Let's throw some. You know what? Our offense will from now on, we're calling 2 plays. And it's always 4 verts, and it's an option route. You either go or it's back shoulder.
Oh,
now,
God.
there's no uglier play in football than when the quarterback's thinking back shoulder and the receiver's thinking go. Those are the worst interceptions you'll ever see in your life. Where you get like a defensive back like, okay, right? I have this now. And because you ran 4 verts, there's no one in my way for 6. But Kelsey, for they haven't utilized him as a contested catch guy a ton, even though he's great at it. But Kelsey's not a super, for as big as he is, he doesn't play super physical.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly intentional. I think he's keeping himself healthy. Yeah. And I appreciate that about him. They need him.
I like the idea of twins right, double left, YOLO. That's what I want.
Yeah. Bleep it, Travis, Josh, or Jody down there somewhere. They down there somewhere. And that is kind of an interesting idea, like throwing the ball up a little bit. I'd like to see that Mahomes does that already. He's willing to do that with Hill, and he's willing to do that with Kelsey. And so we know he's willing to do it, even with a guy. But Hill and Kelsey obviously can get open in a myriad of ways.
Yeah.
Let's see if he does it with a guy who doesn't necessarily, and we'll see whether he can. Josh has spent his whole career creating separation, even though he's not an elite physical talent in terms of speed. He's an elite physical talent in other ways. I'm curious to see what Mahomes does with a guy who's consistently covered. He is a guy that's shown, though, it's like, I see the back of that dude's helmet. I'm throwing it to my 6'5" tight end. I think he'll do it with Gordon, too. And I think if Gordon brings down even a couple, that is going to make defensive coordinators across the league go, God dang it.
Right.
Like,
they shift. And if if you have Travis and Fortson and now Josh, I want to see them in the red zone. If they still have trouble in the red zone, throw it at the crossbar on either end of the uprights, and you have leapers. That's what they're for. That could change their whole thing. Gooch.
Absolutely.
Thank you for upgrading, and thank you for using a super chat to tell us that you upgraded. I appreciate you, buddy. As much as I don't say it enough, I apologize. Stevie, don't try to one-up Seth on kids, bro. He'll go make more tonight.
He 2-upped me. Yeah, no, yeah. I can just hang on. Okay, I think Jazz is pregnant.
And that's why Jazz won't come on this show.
Yes. She's actually told me, like, she's worried she'd get nervous. And when Jazz gets nervous, she says super inappropriate things.
Sweet.
And so it would actually be her that, like, she'd say something, I'd be like, this is a family show. You know what I mean?
Member stream. That's what we'll do.
Yeah, member stream.
Oh, Gooch, you're killing me tonight. And folks, if you aren't a member and you want to be one, so that if you get some of that crazy stuff, like we had Coach Vaz on, and I got maybe a third of the way through it before I had to start bleeping stuff. And I was like, all right, the rest has to go behind the member wall because it was going to get us banned. It was basically what it was.
Nice.
And hey, if you've ever coached, you understand the language that we have tendency to use. So the fact that you've never really heard me drop any kind of like bomb on here, I better knock on something. It truly is.
You're restrained. Yes.
Cheese ball. Is it weird that I feel more confident in the Chiefs after the Chargers game than after the Browns game? I don't think they continue turning it over.
I don't think so either. I don't think that's necessarily weird. I do think the Chargers game, the offense looked borderline unstoppable until they just like, here's the ball.
Right.
I mean, they scored, 3 straight touchdowns. The defense, man, it does bum me out for the defense because they came out fired up. And they were flying around the field, and you almost saw them, and people overestimate the importance of these things in terms of like momentum and motivation and all that, because they were still playing hard. But man, the offense just wasted multiple really good defensive drives to start the game.
Yeah. And
that could have just changed the entire dynamic of the game. And then of course later on when the Chiefs scored touchdowns on 3 straight possessions, 2 things happened. 1, the defense started to fall apart, and 2, the hold they dug was so deep. If that was even just a 1 touchdown hole that they dug rather than, an 11-point hole, they have suddenly a full touchdown lead, and the entire dynamic of the game is just different. So it was just a tough game, but I don't blame you for being confident. They turned the ball over 4 times, and the Chargers, a very good team, barely beat them.
Yeah.
And the Ravens beat them because of stupid, dumb luck. And that I'm still annoyed by that. But what are you going to do?
I agree with you completely. It is not weird. Feel good about yourself because you nailed it. Holly, great question, and thank you again for the support. So, Seth, which of the undefeated AFC West, Raiders or Broncos, do you think falls first?
I think the Broncos do. Who do the Broncos play this weekend again?
I don't know. Madman says it's going to happen right now this week. I don't know. I'd have to look at their schedule.
Well, they play the Ravens on Sunday night.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the Ravens are a better team than the Broncos. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, here's the deal. The Broncos have played let me just make sure, the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Jets. Those are lousy teams. Correct. I mean, lousy teams with lousy offenses, a lousy scheme. I mean, they're just lousy. Those teams are terrible. Yeah. And so the Raiders, on the other hand, they've looked legitimately good. Mm-hmm. Now, Teddy Bridgewater looks like he's playing good football and all that, but it's just hard. This is the same Jets team that the Chiefs. I mean, that was one of the worst beatdowns I've seen of the Andy Reid era, where they just toyed with the Jets. That was hilarious, by the way. But I just don't quite believe it yet. Von Miller's back; he's playing great football. I think Vic Fangio is a great defensive coach, but we'll see how they do against a more legitimate team. I don't think either of them is quite as good as as an undefeated record, because of the low sample size. Yeah.
I think there's a lot less proof for the Broncos. I think they will fall. And I like what Gruden's doing. It took him a while, but I think he's starting to click as to what I thought he was going to do when he got back into the league.
Yeah.
And kudos to Derek Carr. I don't like him much, but
he's played really well.
He has elevated his game, and I respect that.
Yep.
No, Holly, I don't think Seth is purposely having more children. He was doing an experiment of thought, and I don't think that's going to work. But you guys give Aaron a hand, will you? Our fearless mod. We would not be able to do stuff without him. I would certainly be bogged down with screaming at people if it were not for Aaron. And he is the master of all the public service announcements. If you would like and subscribe and hit the thumbs up on this one, that would really help us. Members, you know how to contact me. I hit that before. Yep, you got that one too. So I think we made it to the end of the chat. Okay, we are caught up, Seth. Parting thoughts before we see you next week.
Man, you're just so confident that I'm going to be here next week. Yep. I like it. I'm really curious to see what the Chiefs do against the Eagles. The Eagles do not look good, but it's worth noting football is matchup specific. The Eagles looking so bad against the Cowboys does not mean they'll look so bad against the Chiefs. It's matchup specific. They've got a legitimate defensive line, and so that'll be a good test for the offensive line. But this is a team the Chiefs should beat, right? Every team is a team the Chiefs should beat. What I'm going to be really curious about is, do they stop shooting themselves in the foot on offense? And if they do, what does it look like? Yeah. And on defense, these miscommunications, they've got to stop. And that's just been a problem. Is what we see from the defense more of what started off the Chargers game and ended the Browns game? Honestly, if I were the Eagles, I would look at what the Ravens did, because Hurts can move. Mm-hmm. I mean, now he's not nearly as athletic as Jackson. Virtually no one is. But I would really take a page out of that and try to use a lot of read option stuff to slow down Chris Jones, which, by the way, I saw someone ask a question about, do you think they might move back to defensive tackle? I would give it another few weeks just to see. But Jaron Reed's not playing as well as I think they'd hoped. I've seen him make some good rushes and do some good things, but he's not making the same impact as a pass rusher that I think they would have hoped when moving Chris to the edge. And so that's problematic. And some of this, he's just the Chargers game was tough to gauge because he had a few plays where he really should have had sacks, and just the ball came out so fast.
I'll tell you this too, though, without Frank Clark back, they cannot move him because they don't have enough pressure off the edge.
Right. And yeah, I mean, we'll see if Mike Dana continues to take steps forward, but even if he does, there's Mike, and then what do you do?
And needs to be Okafor, unfortunately.
Right, and he just hasn't shown the ability to consistently contribute to that.
Yeah.
We did have one more question, one more super chat. Dr. Sanitary, have I followed the St. Louis NFL lawsuit? I haven't. Partly because they were still at summary judgment phase, which is fairly early in civil litigation. It sometimes determines whether or not something's going to settle. Now that the case has survived summary judgment and the judge has made a few statements, it wouldn't surprise me to see a settlement. One thing is here, though, is that the city of St. Louis, unlike a private party, might be more inclined to take the risk and of pushing things farther because, unlike a private party, they don't care about paying their lawyers. Like they will pay them. They have the money. Yeah, they're there. The lawyers are already there. They're already on retainer. And there's a lot of money at stake here. The NFL has a history of when they think there's even a possibility they might lose, settling. And so that's what my guess would be. But this one, I mean, this is one, I'm a big fan of the NFL. I think the way things went down with St. Louis and the way that you're seeing a little more often some of these stadium rights deals and some of these like kind of holding cities hostage a little bit, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if the NFL lost. Now that might affect the salary cap, probably not, because they'll just do some arrangement and payment and that kind of stuff. And so I would not hate it if they lost, if only to make sure that something like that doesn't keep happening, because I don't think the way that went down was okay.
I'm with you there. Thank you, Dr. Sanitary. I appreciate it, Josh. Aaron is still waiting to hear from a couple people in Discord, so you guys check that out. Aaron runs all the stuff that I cannot run, like, the funny stuff, fantasy, the picks, the stuff that I'm just too swamped. So if you would give him an answer to help him plan, that would be great. We would appreciate it. Another super chat. Thank you, Howard. We appreciate it. Just wanted to say, I feel like Travaris Ward was missed last week. You're absolutely right. And for all of my telling you that, hey, he's still not a number one, I still stand by that. He is a number two.
Yeah.
And I think that showed out, especially with the physical receivers, the taller receivers.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. I like Ward. He's a guy who belongs starting on an NFL team, and you need guys like that out there on the field. Snead and Hughes, I think, did their thing, but I mean, you can never have too many corners. And some of those YOLO balls that Herbert threw, that they even just one or two breakups there would have been nice.
And you know what? He might have been able to actually cover Mike on that 2-pointer where Williams was standing by himself. Hey, what an idea.
That was
yeah.
Ugh.
At that, we will say good night, you guys. Make sure you want to check out that video in the morning. I'll have it up before lunch, I think, is when it's scheduled for Central. So you guys have a good night. Seth, thank you for everything, all of your insights tonight as well. Oh, and then Stevie does it to me. Stevie sneaks him in, and Aaron does do great work. Thank you for shouting him out. And that one will have to go directly to Aaron. Thank you, guys. You guys have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.